Hello. Welcome to the Boardcast.
New guest every week. Look at that.
I love
Exciting.
that. It's it harkens back to like the remember like the horror movies when they have like a talkover guy at the start and
The narrator?
Yeah, like a narrator. Yeah.
That's
I
what I
like
was
it.
going for. Yeah. It was that or Twilight Zone, but that was a bit harder to do.
Not everyone has the voice for it, right?
No.
So the broadcasting voice is surprisingly hard to pull off. So welcome to the podcast, Connor.
Oh, thank you.
You're a Patreon member from the Boardcast as well. And then 2 weeks ago, we had a competition between you and CJ, who would come on. And CJ was quite nervous, but he also aced it, I think. He did quite good as well. It's actually one of our most listened to episodes now.
Really?
CJ, yeah. So he just went out. It was like, oh, he got all of his mates listening.
Yeah, he's speaking it to his friends.
It's perfect. And we expect you to do the same.
I'll try and beat that. I got to beat that then.
Anyway, welcome on. So, what have you been playing lately? We're a hobby podcast after all.
Definitely playing a lot of Pokemon at the moment. I've actually even got playing a Pokemon Cube tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So that's mainly what I'm playing at the moment. A little bit of Kill Team on the side. Mainly just flip-flopping between those two.
Pokemon's been a bit hectic lately, right? We get phone calls almost daily asking for the newest set.
Yeah, massive. Pokemon, like the company, just announced they're going to reprint the set, which is a big deal because I don't think they've done it for like 4 or 5 years since this happened last time. A lot of retail stores around the world, I think it was Korea, Japan did it, and in places in the US, they stopped the sales of it because they would have, say, like maybe a pallet of booster boxes, and there'd be like 700 people standing outside the shopping center. Yeah, like.
So what makes the newest set so chase?
I honestly think it's just collectors. There's a lot of people that play the game and they just play it to collect the cards for the art. I would think there's actually more people probably playing to collect the cards themselves than actually playing the game.
Yeah.
And that's usually why they're selling out, is people are chasing those like full arts, their alternate art cards and stuff like that. Especially for Pokemon, they're like quite crazy. They look very nice. Like my partner doesn't really play the game, but they collect for the cards. And that's usually why those like new sets are selling out. I think I've seen a thing like in the US where they were restricting like you could only get one booster per like adult, but kids could buy as many as they wanted. So like adults would send in their kids to buy them a bunch of boosters.
That's how child slavery comes back to the United States via Pokemon.
Yeah.
You don't want that poor unfortunate situation of a child who's just going in for the joy of cracking a pack, getting snuffed out by a guy who's buying 17 cases.
Is this like straight back to COVID? Because over east in Queensland and Sydney and stuff, they're what's the word? Rationing out toilet rolls again.
Oh, yeah.
And in America,
Wait,
it's
why are they
Pokemon
rationing
cards.
toilet rolls again?
Because there's some sort of massive toilet roll shortage
Again?
Yeah. The trick was there was never a shortage in Australia the first time, but I think there actually is a shortage now.
Yeah. We've all had COVID, right?
Yeah, I've never confirmedly had it.
I've had it twice.
Okay. Did you guys, did COVID make you guys shit?
Nah.
No.
Well, I don't think so.
Nah.
Because the day that I thought I had COVID, I was like, oh man, I got a bit of a fever going. And I just took a big shit and I was okay.
He's got COVID, he's got diarrhea. He's had too many of those one
But also, even then, I was like, you don't need a billion toilet rolls. This is just you're fine.
Yeah, just go out to the grass and scoot around like a dog. It's fine.
Yeah, of course, nature's own toilet roll.
I remember I did a delivery out of the storage center near the airport here, and they had like billions of toilet rolls. And there was like, it was more that they just couldn't get them on the shelf quick enough because people were buying them. The shortage was coming from people buying them and then being able to stock it in time. There was plenty of toilet rolls the entire time. So when there was people scalping them on like Facebook Marketplace, it's crazy someone was paying extra money for something that was the same amount of money. Like right
Oh,
now.
you ever wonder what that guy's doing now? He just
I know a guy who imported an entire sea container of COVID tests, and then 2 weeks later, the government announced they'll give them out for free.
nice.
Well, that was a bad investment.
100% was. And it's like, it's kind of like, it's a double-edged sword of like, oh, it's rough for him, but also he was hard trying to scalp them for hard
fuck
money.
that guy.
Yeah.
So, anyway, back to Connor.
Wouldn't be a broadcast without a bit of rambling.
Yeah, of course. We need to divert at least a little bit here.
At least if we catch them before we go too far, at least I haven't forgotten what we were talking about in the first place.
It's really just the ADHD podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, so the newest set, I believe every Pokemon set, they usually have 1 or 2 chase cards. They do in a special foiling.
Yeah, usually. They usually release like a big EX card that will be like played around in a deck and
Do you know
whatnot.
roughly how much those cards cost?
Actually, not too much. Pokemon is like notoriously cheap to get
Really?
into.
Okay.
You could probably play like a highly competitive deck for less than 100
So what do you
bucks.
think is it just so many people are trying to collect the cards? Because usually in a card game, when you have
I think the
massive sellout-
Pikachu the main one is about $3,000.
Okay, I
So,
see.
Yeah, that's
but it's like there's what really it is for Pokemon at the moment is that we've seen such growth in like Magic the Gathering and One Piece. It's nothing compared to the growth of the interest in Pokemon. Like it's the kids, girls, like a lot of like young girls getting into it. The rapid growth,
families,
a lot of like Southeast Asian countries that traditionally don't have as much like extra money, like Malaysia and Thailand and stuff like that, Indonesia, where there's kind of, it would have been wasteful maybe 10 years ago to spend money on this kind of stuff. Now they've got the GDP is a bit higher, they've got more money to spend. So a lot of places where the market reach wasn't before, it is now. So if all these people getting into the hobby and fighting over effectively the same amount of product as they were printing 5 years ago, they didn't really increase it that much. And that's why they've announced just this week, they're going to really dump a load, like a heap of reprints back into the system, even though the new set for Pokemon is been announced already. So
like I haven't seen the newest set sold anywhere personally myself. I've been to a lot of places, just like bought a few packs. I have not seen any of the new sets.
I heard a crazy story
everywhere.
where there's a card game store in WA. I can't remember the name of it, but they specifically are known for doing Pokemon, and they only got 8 boxes.
Yeah,
they got
100%.
allocated 8 boxes.
Yeah.
You can't even. How do you even honor pre-orders at that point? You just have to go to your customers and be like, "I'm sorry, guys, this is not enough stock to be fair for anyone."
Was it Spawn Point or Collector or something? Maybe
Someone walked in with a story for me. I can't remember.
because we get phone calls all the time for it, and I actually tried to order some, and I went on our distributor, and they'd removed it from the website.
Supposedly, from the distributors themselves, they sold out within 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I put
At that point,
pre-orders in for the new
what
set.
is the chances of a customer?
Yeah. I put pre-orders in the new set for about maybe like 3 or 4 cases. So nothing massive compared to our Magic haul, but it is hard when somebody walks in and like, "Do you have it?" I'm like, I want to take you $10.
Yeah. I heard the newest set has there's a fan favorite character called Eevee. And they come in different evolutions.
Yeah,
and they've done
correct.
all 9 evolutions. So there's 9 chase cards in this set, supposedly. And that really ups the collectability of it. But you mentioned that Pokemon is not super expensive to get into. The cards themselves aren't super expensive, right?
Correct.
So it's funny because most card games, if it sells out, it's because the cards have good value. So you'll get Pokemon players and you get Magic the Gathering players. They're buying bulk loads of this set because they can try to sell it, make a profit.
Yeah, the scalping.
So that's like the funny thing, right? The newest set is Prismatic Evolutions. It's all about the EVs and like the different versions of EV or whatever. But just at least from what I've seen, a lot of people talking about, it's not a very powerful set. Like a lot of those cards aren't really going to be used in many meta decks. I think the reason it's selling out is because Eevee is such a popular character. People want to collect the set of Eevees for the art.
It's just
more
the
than
power of Pokemon, the collectability, the infinite money. So you also play Pokemon, and me and Danny, we only ever hear about the collecting side of Pokemon. How is the gameplay?
I really enjoy the gameplay. It's probably my favorite card game.
Okay.
And just in terms of gameplay, I think it's really fast. It's snappy. I actually find there's a few elements to it like that I enjoy personally. That it's like preference, right? Like you can't be interrupted in a game of Pokemon. Like when it's your turn, it's your turn. Your opponent can't counterspell you or anything like that. Which I enjoy. I mean, it has its downsides and stuff like that. It's got like I'm not familiar with other card games. I've only really played Magic as my other one, and like a bit of Hearthstone and stuff like that. But Pokemon, I've just enjoyed its flow, its speed. I think the games are quick, and I feel it's quite balanced game overall.
Okay,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
So do you play at a competitive level, or would you say more casual level?
I mean, I play a lot of the like online client, and I'll play ranked, and I'll play quite like competitively and stuff like that. But I can play a few casual matches with my friends. And
So the
that's usually
metagame's
what I
not too
do.
bad then.
Yeah,
You mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like they've done a really good job with the online client and the like the app, like playing the games in the app, like the way they open the packs and all like the visuals and the like all the the visuals around how they open the packs. And that's
There's a
really
new
cool.
app, right? There's a new really popular phone video game version.
Yeah, that's Pokemon Pocket. Yeah, TCG Pocket, I believe.
And I think that's what you're referring to as well.
Yeah, you see a lot of guys like popping it out in between rounds or games you hear, like playing it in the meantime.
It's the ultimate dopamine rush.
Yeah.
You get your phone notification, you crack open a pack, bam,
Yeah,
cards.
bam, yeah. Well,
Gotcha.
Forrester was mentioning how they send you like on your birthday they send you a pack, or every day they send you a pack for you to open, and it gets you in that habit of like doing it every day, and you're like, oh, I could do another one. You know what I mean? So it's good. It's clearly good marketing.
Yeah, so that's Pokemon Pocket. So it's a different version than the tabletop. They've actually made it a bit easier, and it's to get people into the kind of the game and stuff like that. There's also the other client, which is like TCG Live, which I mainly play. It's like completely free. And what's surprising is like for a card game online, it doesn't have any microtransactions. You can't pay for a single card. It's
Interesting.
only
Whoa.
earned through gameplay. Yeah.
Wow.
So do you earn it? Do you earn like some sort of like point system? Then you use the
Yeah,
points
exactly.
to buy it?
Yeah. There's a battle pass you work through, but it's not paid at all. It's completely free. When you open a booster pack in real life, you get a QR code you can scan, so you can open the booster pack in the game as well.
Oh, really?
But you can't actually
will
buy
the pack have
anything.
the same cards as the one you just bought?
No, it's completely
because
random.
card doesn't know.
Yeah. But you can't buy anything directly through the game.
It's super.
So there's no way for it
consumer-friendly.
to make money at all.
No, it literally just seems
They're
like it's for
definitely stealing your
marketing.
bank details.
Oh, it's something dodgy. Something dodgy.
But it's the
how
ultimate
do they
gateway
pay
drug.
for the client to stay alive if there's no way for the money?
From what I hear, just like one guy works on it. Yeah.
It's hardcore, just gateway drug you in, and then maybe after you play the digital version, you're going to buy the physical version.
Yeah, true. I
So
guess
we
it's a good
see
way to
how
get
much-
people involved.
It worked for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We see the translation from Magic Arena to paper as well,
Yeah.
where I'll very constantly on the weekends have people coming and being like, I've been playing Arena fairly consistently. I want to get this paper Magic a go as well. And they buy a Commander deck because you can't play Commander on Arena.
I guess there's something to be said about keeping the Pokemon players playing Pokemon online rather than straying to something like Hearthstone or Magic Online. And it's like if they keep them in their own environment, then they don't stray out, I guess, as well. So even if it's free, make sure that they're not trying other card games is actually a pretty good strategy.
I just figure I've seen so many documentations and I read online articles about how big, massive corporations, like Amazon or Microsoft, Apple, they have dedicated teams of marketers that are also deeply in knowledge of like human psychology and how to market and keep people in and keep you buying. And the same thing goes for any of these card games as well, right? I imagine Magic, Pokemon, all these guys, they have a lot of marketing that go into like how to make a product that we can sell to people and keep them in and playing.
Yeah.
And then things like these digital apps are a fantastic way of gateway drugging you in. So, hey, they might know us better than we know ourselves.
Big Pokemon's coming for you.
Pokemon's coming for me. So, and hey, Nintendo do sue people all the time.
Which
There's
Pokemon would you prefer to have as a pet? What's your go-to pet
Oh, that's a
Pokemon?
classic question.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh.
I think as a kid, you answer things like Charmander or like Charizard, right? But
No, I want the guy with the boxing gloves. I don't. Is it?
yeah.
Oh, like Machamp. Or
Yeah,
something
Machamp.
like
Yeah, yeah.
The thing about
yeah.
the big dragon Pokemons is it's too much effort to keep
You'd
them
have to
around.
feed that motherfucker.
Yeah, so much effort.
Imagine like dog food that fuck would eat the entire time.
I might just be really boring and I'll just pick like the most, almost like a real life pet, just a regular dog
yeah.
Pokemon.
There's the fire wolf guy. I'm pretty bad with Pokemon.
Yeah,
that. Oh, it's
same.
Firewolf. That's like Arcanine or something.
Yeah,
like that, I
Arcanine was the
think.
first one. Yeah. He'd be
Who would you
sick.
pick, Connor?
Oh, that's always a hard one. I'm always bad on this one. I actually thought of my answer before. I don't know. Definitely my favorite Pokemon's like Magnemite. He's like the little magnet guy. I don't know. He's pretty cool. I vibe with him. He probably like wreck
Is it
all of my
cheating if I say
devices.
Arceus?
He's literally God.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the god.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say your dad is a really angry drunk. He likes to beat you. Which Pokemon would you least likely to be your angry drunk dad? Which
Machamp,
which
right?
is the most?
Put the boxing gloves on. Come here, son.
My pet is your dad.
Like Annihilate or something like that.
what does he do?
Oh, he's just a monkey that just beat you up.
My dad's a monkey and he gets
fuck.
drunk and punches me.
As much as I want to say Arceus, really, I'm just going to pick Mouth. Just give me the talking
Oh,
cat.
Mouth's pretty
Yeah,
good.
because he's beating you, but he's also giving you lip and bullying you the entire time.
Why is my Pokemon beating me up?
Because he's getting your dad. Oh, wait, is you going for the pet thing?
Yeah, I'm going for the pet
Oh,
angle.
you're back at the pet. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, which Pokemon do you want to be your dad, Connor?
Which Pokemon do I want to be my dad? Oh,
No,
God.
he is your
I
dad.
don't
You
know.
don't want him to be your dad.
I'll pick Snorlax or something like that. Easy to deal with.
Just sleeping all the time?
Yeah, for real.
Dude, it's like my real dad. Yeah. Anyway, off the Pokemon discussion now, because we've clearly veered right off. So a big reason you're also on the podcast as well today as well, and we have a perfect topic to lead into this. You're in the cybersecurity.
I am.
career.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I am currently studying to be in the cybersecurity field. Hopefully,
Yep.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Please.
When
get me
Connor
out of
walked in the
uni.
door, I deleted half of my internet research
Yeah.
of my phone just in case. I don't know how it works, so I just want to make sure that nobody can see what I'm googling at 9 o'clock at night. It's fine.
You ever go to your you ever steal your mate's phone and just like look at in their internet history?
It's a 12-year-old girl straight away. I'm googling.
Well, you'll better get used to looking at people's internet history because you will in cybersecurity a lot. And you don't want to. You really don't want to.
Oh God.
My mum used to know this lady who her job was to, when movies came in, this is in like the 70s and 80s, right? When movies would come in from America, they'd have to watch them and give them an Australian rating. And she said like most of them like are normal, but you'd get like porn, because again, it's the 70s and 80s, right? You get porn would be like sent through and also like stuff that was horrific from like other countries. And they're like, they'd have to watch all this shit. She reckons she did it for about 10 years and she got like the worst PTSD from just watching the worst stuff. I assume you looking at
She was a
their
trooper,
searches is
though.
the same, right?
Yeah.
Gone for
For
10
real.
years. She's a trooper.
No, I feel like I got PTSD. Some guy I remember just put a typo into. He was looking for a genuine website, put a typo in. He ended up on some like German sex cult website. Man.
Yeah,
like,
he just had a typo.
Yeah, for real. But
I know when I accidentally end up in a German sex cult.
Yeah. The early days of the internet as well, there used to be a lot of scam websites or dodgy websites, but they purposely name it close to a common website.
Oh, yeah.
So if you just type, like, for example, Pornhub wrong, you just end up in a rabbit hole where they steal your bank data.
Prawn Hub.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, how did you get into cybersecurity?
So I originally have like a background in networking. I studied networking mainly, like IT networking.
Did you go to uni, TAFE? or-
I just did TAFE. Yeah, I did TAFE. I got a job, and then I went back to TAFE again and studied like advanced deployment network security. But I did I kind of wanted to get into the cybersecurity front, but yeah, I kind of just ended up working like a regular IT analyst job like after I went got out of TAFE. And I was kind of looking to get into cybersecurity, and I was just kind of looking for like any sort of like experience to get my name out there within the company I was already working in.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, great. There's a team that's in my office, and they want like guest presenters to come in from other teams and like share their knowledge and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do one on like cybersecurity. Even if I'm not I was just a regular IT analyst. It's just like I have the knowledge, I share it, and maybe I get my name out there a little
Were you
bit within the company.
enjoying being an IT analyst, or were you
yeah.
looking to do something else on purpose?
I always want to grow. I always wanted to like move up
Perfect.
into cybersecurity. But I did enjoy my job. Yeah. But
What's an analysis primarily do? What are you doing on a day-to-day?
it's a fancy name for help desk, essentially.
Yeah.
IT support sort of thing. People come up to you just whatever random issues, and you got to figure out what you got to do.
And that's your own company coming to you, like someone further down the line that's coming to you for assistance with stuff?
Yeah. So I would work in like an office, and if you're like sat at your desk and your screens won't connect or something, you can ask me. Or if,
Oh, so it's like me when I need to know anything about the shop
pretty
at
much,
all for
pretty much. Yeah, just
I'm
I'm a Northern Boards analyst.
Yeah. It'll be like some basic thing. Someone will be like, hey, what's the date of this thing? And I'm like, I know I should know this, but I definitely don't. So I just message Kang. I'm like, hey, I know it's your day off, but if you're around and can answer this question.
The funny you mentioned you got into TAFE for like networking and such. I have people ask me sometimes like, hey, what is important knowledge for cybersecurity? And I always tell them, you got to have a pretty good fundamental knowledge of networks. In fact, any sort of computer science field, you should get your fundamentals correct, and you should at least get a pretty good knowledge of how networks work. Because if you can't understand how computers connect,
What does networks really mean?
just how computers connect and how we effectively...
the internet.
Yeah, the
essentially.
internet. So,
And local internet and blah, blah, blah.
but if you don't know how that functions, then it doesn't matter.
Is that because from the security side, that's like the primary, like obviously that's how people get in and out of
Absolutely.
things?
Yeah,
Okay.
people aren't really physically breaking into a place anymore. They're doing it over the internet.
Correct.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, you continue your story, Connor. as
Oh,
well.
I was going to say regarding like your fundamentals and stuff like that. I mean, I did networking and stuff like that, but when I was in high school, I was like a bad kid, but not in like a nerdy bad kid. I was like fucking up all the like school computers,
Yeah.
doing like random stuff, trying to play Halo and stuff like that.
That
You know,
was
the
that's the
classic.
classic story.
Yeah, it's 100%.
It's the gateway drug to getting into computer science.
Oh, for
It's
real.
just on this school network, you just mess around and see what you can get away with.
Well, they kept blocking Halo, so I had to keep
Yeah.
finding ways around it because
Get
I wanted to
around it,
play
yeah.
Halo.
They've
Man.
inadvertently created a genius by just like stopping you from playing things.
It got really bad when I was in high school because they had my account flagged on
Oh
purpose.
yeah.
So there was a lot of things where they were just like, you just got to monitor this kid because his kid's going to do stupid things.
I'm a bit older than you guys, and
I
like,
had a few chats where they would pull me into the IT room and they'd be like, bro.
well, like I'm a bit older, and our IT guy didn't know much more about computers than half the kids did. So like they didn't know that anything, like they were playing like Age of Empires was mostly stuff that we did. They didn't even know that it was on there. Like one of the older kids was in year 12 when I was in like 8 or 9. He showed us he's like, oh yeah, we like when he comes around, we can flip the computer, and he's got no record that we were doing. The computer has this whole back end that you can do this stuff
Yeah.
in. And he's like, that guy, he's like talking about it. He's like, that guy doesn't even know how to do this. So it's like, I was learning from him, and I didn't really learn shit. I just learned just enough so that I could play Age of Empires. I knew what to write into the thing when I pressed the Windows button.
That's all you need.
We had the same thing as well, where enough kids were in the lunchtime playing LAN games, Warcraft 3, Halo. We had a game called Tremulous as well. So much so that it was during lunchtime, teachers were complaining that they couldn't get work done because we were just hogging up the internet.
The Wi-Fi is eating ass.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's I forgot the Wi-Fi, like internet used to be pretty bad in Australia.
correct, dude.
Yeah.
Before we had any sort of fiber optics, everyone was rationing out those fucking kilobytes.
Did you ever have the dial-up?
I did have the dial-up as a
Yeah.
kid, yeah.
My mum was like a popular lady, so she'd get phone calls all the time. And I just remember being in the computer, like a little office of where the computer was. I'm like, Mum, please. You're like halfway. You'd be like 98% of downloading like a Ja Rule album from LimeWire, and someone would call the end, and the whole thing would fail. And I'm like, no.
But then you would finish the Ja Rule album download, and because you got it from LimeWire, it's some like Mexican cartel
Yeah,
video
it would-
instead. You're like,
It
fuck.
was always, there was quite a few
You're
songs.
like 13 years old and just getting like PTSD.
There's quite a few albums and songs that I grew up with thinking that it was like this guy. And then I got old enough to like the internet. And you're like, this is not this guy at all. I thought this for the last 10 years that this song was sung by like Omarion, but it's not. It's
It
someone else.
was really
right?
bad because I remember you would download, you would LimeWire or whatever, Napster. Napster was before my time. Yeah, and then you'd download the song, and you can still hear the radio presenter in the song. You're like, fuck. Because someone just clipped it or like recorded it from a radio station.
Or it's like that lead-in music because they lead out of an advert or something.
Yeah.
You've got a movie and you're like watching it, and then you just see a silhouette of a guy walking in front of it.
Are you from Perth?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you ever do like the whole Bali thing where you go to Bali and buy DVDs?
Yeah, 100%. I had a modded PlayStation 2 and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, gas.
And it's like the Bali thing here was such a big thing for for a long period of time, especially like just pre-internet where you couldn't download movies or anything. Our Netflix and stuff wasn't here, like even the disc version of Netflix. So it's like people would go to Bali, it was big things, and you'd like, what family member you're going, so you'd send them like a list of like 30 movies to bring you back, right? And they were like, you'd pay $1. But it was always like the worst rips of movies of all time. I think some of the funniest ones were the Disney movies would come back, but it would be a screening in China in English, but then it would go through the Chinese translation and then back to English. So there'd be English subtitles over the Chinese subtitles, and then the English words would be not what the words they're saying. So because the movies in English, and you're reading the English subtitles, and they wouldn't match up at all. And it was like it was crazy how far off the retranslation of the retranslation would be. And same thing, like you'd see, it'd be a guy filming it in like a camcorder, like an old ass real camcorder, and it's like just the back of the chairs. And then I remember we had one where we would collect the dodgy ones and like share them with friends and make copies of them. And we had this really cool collection of like all these shittily burnt ones. And there was one where there's a cat kept walking across the theater chairs in front of you, and another one where someone gets in an argument with another guy who's like talking during the entire movie. So you're watching the movie. I think it was Finding Nemo, and they're arguing, or there's some people talking, and then there's an argument, and then the guy stands up, and you're like, you're watching Finding Nemo, but really you're watching these silhouettes like fight each other.
The kid gets the family argument experience while watching Nemo. Can you imagine the people fighting? Like, oh man, thank fuck that no one will ever hear about this argument, and then thousands of people on the internet.
I like the idea of like a 12-year-old kid who's just trying to escape his parents constantly arguing with each other, and he sits down in front of the TV.
There was a really good
Trauma.
one where I think it was Wolverine Origins. Before the movies hit theaters, a leaked version of Wolverine Origins hit the internet, and it was a pre-edited Wolverine Origins. So it still had all the green screen and all the shitty effects and stuff.
It's just all the segments put together essentially.
So you
That's
gotta
how
watch
good.
like this super janky movie screening with green screens and everyone's in suits and stuff.
Before
And
they-
that sounds amazing.
They CGI'd the six packs to his stomach, so it's just fat Wolverine,
Yep.
doing flips and shit.
So how did you? So you mentioned. So in the story right now, because we keep cutting off
Yeah.
from where you were. So the timeline right now is Connor. You had TAFE.
Yeah.
All right, and you became an IT analyst.
Yep.
And then you went back to do more advanced networking.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then from that pipeline, how did you find yourself into cybersecurity?
So I ended up an IT analyst again.
Okay.
While I was
Same
like,
company?
No, different company. But I was essentially like, I was looking for a cybersecurity position, like applying to stuff, but I had to pick up a job at the meantime. So I picked up an IT analyst job, something I'd done before and had experience for. And in that job, that's the one where there was a team within that office that wanted like other like different people from different jobs to come in and do different presentations, etc., share knowledge, like I was saying. and I wanted to do one on cybersecurity. So what I did, which I thought was genius, was I would make a fake virus to showcase what a real virus would do. So I made like a bad USB. You're probably familiar with it. So USB you plug in and it essentially hacks your
In most
computer.
company policy, you will have don't take in foreign,
I've heard
flash
that, like
drives
in New York, people will leave those flash drives around because someone will
It's a
think they're
common tactic.
and they'll like then just put it in their own computer.
Yes.
Which I would do. I'm pretty stupid. I would definitely find a flash drive. Like, I'll find if there's some booby pictures on here.
Ooh, what secrets are in this?
I keep all my booby pictures on a flash drive, so why wouldn't someone else?
If you want to do that, just find an old laptop you don't use anymore and it's not connected to nothing, and then you just put it in, see what happens.
Oh yeah, I've got a sandboxing laptop for that, so that thing gets throttled with lots of
No big
fun
deal.
things.
Don't care.
Yeah, pretty much.
You keep it in like a shoebox under your bed, and it comes out. It's like, please, Connor, no.
More virus for you.
If you're in cybersecurity, you got to be a little bit morbidly curious.
Always.
But I essentially did this fake virus. You plug it in, says you've been hacked in your screen, and like locks it up and changes the background. It's
That's
pretty
super
like
cool.
benign, but like I did that. I did my presentation. I thought it went really well, and I showcased it, and I showed the person who was like the team leader beforehand by plugging into their computer to showcase kind of what it did before, so they'd approve it, and then everything went fine. The presentation was good. It was a success, and I was happy. And then I came in the next day, and I went to log in, and my account wouldn't log in. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And then like my phone's like ringing off the hook, and I'm like, okay. And I like pick it up, and they're like, what have you done? What you did? And
You
they just
bricked everyone's stuff.
And I didn't brick everyone's stuff, but they had thought that my fake virus was a legitimate virus. And because I was testing it on like the other team leads' computers, it looked like it had been spreading because I had been plugging it into multiple computers.
Locations.
Yeah.
So no one in that room was like, no, guys, this has been approved. It's fine, fine.
Because it's a big company.
Yeah.
The cyber team is like off in the UK and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
It doesn't get relayed. They don't know what's going on.
So you just made a hell convincing fake.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
essentially. Yeah, and they pretty much locked me fully out. They were like ready to fire me and stuff like that, and they were grilling me for questions.
Then 4 years on, and now we've got war with Russia, and we can essentially blame that with you, right? It does
You
feel
send
like
the USB to Putin, see what happens.
Here, plug this in.
It does feel like the start of like a zombie movie where like somebody mishandles like some sort of like smallpox virus. Like this is the computer equivalent. Like it's like I accidentally make a fake virus, and all of a sudden the Terminators come back in the future, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, we suddenly that bad USB ends up in Russia. Putin puts in the computer. He puts a hit list for this man named Connor Pollock.
Yeah.
We see
man, I gotta
three
go to
vans
hiding.
drive up, pulls Connor out.
All the drones are just falling out of the sky.
But essentially I was on the phone, I answered all their questions or whatever. And they essentially went, all right, don't do that again. Also, send in your resume. So I sent
nice.
Cool,
yeah.
dude.
So I sent in my resume after that.
It's like reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Or forward psychology. I don't know.
So I feel like I took a page out of my TAFE lectures book, because apparently how he got into it was that he had a similar situation, but it was more like he applied for a cybersecurity job. They said, our security's fine. So then he got home and he hacked into their printers and printed like 100 copies of his resume or whatever.
Classic.
I feel like it's a bad precedent to set, because they thought they were fine, but then you do this thing and they're impressed by it. But that doesn't just take every other, like, if word gets out, wouldn't everybody applying for the job just trying to fuck with these people all the time?
Oh, yeah.
At what point are you spending more time stopping people just trying to get jobs fucking with you than actual viruses?
Hey,
Like, it feels like it's muddying the waters.
In the
right?
classic like cybersecurity field, hey, if they're good enough to hack into your network security, you'd rather have them on your side.
Yeah, but if you're spending your entire time just dealing with guys who are just trying to get a job, like you might miss an actual security threat. Because that's the classic meme. I don't know how true it is. You guys be able to answer it more. For me, they come across, these like FBI would have come across some guy who's hacked into something, and then they recruit that guy or try to recruit that guy because they said they'd rather have him on the team, right? But it's like, is the guy in Romania going to jump across and become
This happens a lot.
Yeah.
This is a true thing that happens where like people will find exploits in major corporations, and the corporation will pay them to fix it or just hire the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever listen to that podcast that I sent you about the cybersecurity thing?
Oh, I need to check it out. Yes.
So I've been listening to this podcast. I will post this because it's actually super interesting. But
It's only 8 or 9 episodes.
yeah,
long.
it's just a short 8 or 9 episodes, and it's about this basically hitman website that someone was running on the internet, and people would call would log in through the dark web and then hire people like like hitmen essentially to like knock people off. In the end, the actual website was a scam. So he was just super convincing, and he had with his communication, but he took all this money, like he scammed all this money out of people who were trying to order hits. But the dark part of it was the reality was like these people were spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from all different places around the world to have these people hit. And the idea is like, just he scams them and gets some money out of them, but that doesn't stop them trying to get someone else to do it. Or even, these people are still in danger, right? And so this British like news guy, what are they called? Reporter. This British reporter goes around all these like people all around the world, like in Spain and Italy and America and like China. And he goes to all these different people and tries to convince them that they're in danger and that they need to like seek help from like this person who is trying to get them killed. And like most of the people think he's crazy and don't, but he's like a real British reporter, and the police are like different, like Interpol and stuff is eventually helps him. But at the start, he's like talking to people like, someone's trying to kill you, and they're like, I don't want what you're buying. Like he'll have multiple conversations with them, and he's like, I'm not selling you anything.
Because he's like the chaotic good on the alignment chart. He's stealing money from these people trying to get people killed, and he's also trying to convince you, hey, dude, this guy actually wants to kill you.
And the funniest part is like the guy is the most he's just the classic awkward British guy who's like, he's cool. He calls up and stumbles his way through the words and is apologizing, and it's just like, and like as a listener, you're just like, get it out.
If you randomly received a phone call one day, just randomly a British guy calls you and tells you that someone wants to kill you, would you believe him?
I can understand why it's unbelievable. Yeah, I get it.
Because it could be a crank call, you know what I mean? Like kids are calling up fucking fakes all the time now.
Yeah, I do get like phone calls constantly to buy gas, and I'm like, no, thank you, bye, thank you. And it probably be the exact situation.
I was in my mate's car once, and we had his girlfriend call up a bunch of like random numbers and just try and pretend to be a mistress.
You've made so many terrible decisions, Kane. It's crazy.
And but I was like young. We was like, this is going to be so funny. I could have ruined someone's life by accident. I don't even know.
You absolutely could have.
Yeah.
Any success there?
No, basically, if someone actually picked up, we wouldn't. But we would hit people's voicemails and leave like voicemails.
Yeah.
And the idea is that hopefully someone picks up the voicemail.
Just using sultry voices.
Yeah.
Come back to bed.
But the hitman scam, right? Like, what a genius scam, because you can't go to the police and be like, this guy scammed me out of money. Oh, what were you paying for? Nothing.
Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
I was just buying porn.
Because at some point, the guy who running the website realized that this guy was onto him. So then it became this weird cat and mouse of going back and forth of how they were going to operate. And he had an actual conversation. The guy's like, you definitely don't want to do this. Like, you don't want to push any further and find me out. And they found that I think he was a Romanian national, and he was a Romanian national living in Ukraine at the time. And in the end, it did end up working that he worked with the guys, got something to do with the FBI and Interpol.
Right.
And then the FBI took over the website, and then they were the ones scraping the information off of the website, because people were still finding them on the dark web and contacting them and paying them. So the FBI would then take in that information and then hand that out to the different police around the world.
I guess it is better ultimately that it ended up in the authorities.
Yeah, because it ended up in the news, in general public news, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. It was like a massive story, because it was like, there's some really prominent people all around the world that had tried to pay like, between $5,000 and like 60,000 pounds and all this like different amounts of money to have other people killed. Like sometimes they're politicians or doctors, and like grossly, there's a lot of husbands and wives who are trying to like knock off their partners.
Seems likely.
It's like the likely cause, right? But in the end, it was because from the tech side part of it, the FBI was in the website, but so was like a shadow group of people who were resetting the website up under a different like thing.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So the FBI thought they were in control of it, but they weren't in full control of it, and they didn't realize. And it was this whole like, I don't know, like dogfight battle between the FBI and this other like, the tech people.
It's funny you mentioned your professor. He was able to kind of get into the system through a printer. It's when I was doing my pen testing course, the classic angle of attack is see if there's a vulnerable printer you can attack through.
Yeah.
Because most of the time,
What's pen testing course mean?
Penetration testing.
Oh, okay.
So like penetration testing is the classic thing of you're hacking into a network.
Got it.
But oftentimes,
is a printer like a weak link then, is it?
Correct. Oftentimes printers don't have a lot of security on them, and if the printer is connected to the internet, you can use that as a vector of attack to kind of get into the network. But anyway, so So after you handed your resume and they gave you a position, how did you go? Are you enjoying yourself now?
Yeah, I was enjoying myself. I definitely felt like I was on eggshells, at least for the first 6 months after
Gotcha.
my little attempt.
Yeah, now everybody knows who you are, right?
Yeah.
How confident
exactly.
did you feel like in this new position? Did you get a lot of assistance and kind of learning as you go, getting experience?
So essentially, because it was a global team, like there's like we got like 3 people in Australia, including myself. There's like 3 in UK, like 3 in US, and it kind of like rotates around. So we got like the coverage all the time. But my manager's in the UK, so I don't really get like direct oversight from him. The best I've got is my most senior cyber guy in Australia. So he kind of like mentors me a little bit, but for the most part, I was kind of left to my own devices.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you work from home or in office?
I work from home 5 days a week. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's pretty comfy like that. But then obviously with cybersecurity, it's like you sometimes have to start working at like 9 at night for a random reason or whatever, some attack. Yeah.
I guess it's cruisy until she hits the fan.
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. Everything's chilling, and then it's not chilling anymore.
So how did you find it? Did you go in with a lot of experience, knowing how to, whatever your job entailed?
Yeah, I definitely was. I did when I did my network security course. It did cover a lot of the stuff that I was aware of, but I definitely felt that even though I had done that, like at least in my point of view, with IT, formal education can only take you so far.
Correct,
In
correct.
IT, like I feel like a lot of it is just like your experience and like knowledge, especially when I was getting the job and stuff like that. It looked like that's what they wanted. They wanted someone who had like that more hands-on experience more than the
practical,
academic. Yeah, because you can go back and get those certificates while you're working. You can get that further education, but I think what they say, like they want like attitude, not aptitude sort of thing. Like, and I felt I was like willing to learn and like take it on. Yeah.
Because I guess it's like I don't know how true it is, but you hear a lot about IT. Like by the time you graduate uni or you think you've done, a lot of the stuff you've learned is already out of date. Is that
that is pretty much true. Yeah, I would say.
Because obviously understanding basics and learning, it's kind of like when people complain on like high school about learning math. It's like the idea isn't about learning that exact math. It's about learning how to learn. So when you go into university, or whatever, you can like, you've found the way to like study and learn things and take information and all that kind of stuff. So, people always, the age old complaint of like, oh, when am I going to use algebra? It's not necessarily just about using algebra. It's about learning how to use these skills in the future.
Yeah, it's the foundational building blocks so that eventually algebra becomes, hey, engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it. So it's like, I want it like, at least with uni, because you're obviously doing uni to do this.
Yeah.
So are you concerned that when you get out of it, some of that stuff isn't going to be
Less
practical?
so, because the way a lot of the formal teaching now is going to be way more practical. Way more of the formal teaching around the IT fields is giving you the necessary knowledge that you can go study yourself in your own time. And they heavily encourage you to go seek out and gain your own experience while you're studying as well. Because a big thing nowadays is, for example, a lot of things are handled through tools and software that exist. And they really want you to give you the building foundational blocks so that if you do go out in your own time to experiment with these tools and go learn how to use it and stuff. So, for example, in network monitoring, Wireshark, we'll probably, Wireshark's used a lot in like just basic network monitoring. They can be like, this thing exists and we can teach you how to use it, but we expect you to go in your own time to go seek out things and try and learn with it so that you do start building some foundational experience.
They want to see that proactivity.
Because one of the big things that my lecturer said going to my third year was, hey, there is zero chance we can teach you everything you need to learn. We can teach you. We can get you 20% of the way there. The other 80% is on you.
Yeah.
So
a lot of it's like self-learning. I think like YouTube is probably the best like educational
Absolutely.
resource that I ever had.
yeah.
So yeah,
I got to,
it's crazy how many degreed people say this exact same thing.
there's a classic list of like YouTubers I got to thank for getting me through a lot of my things. One of the big ones, I keep going back to penetration testing as one of my favorite parts of the course was hacking into things. And the way they would teach you in uni was they'll just give you some walkthroughs here and there so you can get the basic idea of it. But hey, if you want to do it in your own time, you're going home and you're downloading machines and you're trying to hack into machines constantly to learn.
So have you like hacked into your like dad's TV to fuck with him while he's watching the football?
Nah, this doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I'm a real basic bitch. My entire version of this is watching like Hollywood movies where I imagine a guy like furiously typing on a computer while like green code runs down like the Matrix. Can I pitch you two against each other with a computer each to like wizard duel each other into like a hack.
It's honestly mostly just running an nmap script and then waiting like 30 minutes to see if he has any vulnerabilities, and then you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah, usually it's a they call it blue team, red team.
Oh, yeah.
Red team's the attacker, blue team's the defender. So I would find
It's just
myself
two
on
guys
blue
watching
team,
like
yeah.
a WinZip file download. Is
Yeah.
that effectively what it is?
It's honestly, hacking is less glamorous than it seems in movies, because most of it is just waiting for a script to run and being like, oh man, I sure hope this finds something. So
But essentially, like, if you want to like learn how to attack stuff, they just have like you can get like virtual machines that are essentially
Correct.
just like the computer version of like a boxing bag, like a punching bag. That it's just you're supposed to just hammer it and see what you can do with it.
You can
So you're saying
download-
when I run Norton 360 and do a virus scan, I'm essentially hacking?
sure.
This is
Oh yeah,
So like Connor says, you can download virtual machines on the internet, and these are effectively, they call them vulnerable boxes. They're just like a little, you can imagine them as though they were just a locked box, and you are just designed to kind of break into it and see what happens. Most of the time in hacking in real life, it's nowhere near as glamorous as like, I'm hacking into the mainframe, I'm going to turn the security cameras on and off and do all sorts of crazy shit. It's usually you go in and you're like browsing files to see if you can find anything interesting.
Well, actually, mostly it's people. The best hackers are the best talkers. Usually, it's always the easiest way to get in is through people.
Yep.
Social engineering.
because the weakest link is the person.
Every time. Getting someone on the phone can get you so far. Yeah.
Like
Most-
earlier you said that it's like they can give you 20% of the like information, but it's 80% up to you. I feel like making it cool is they can give you 20%, which is the actual hacking part. 80% is on you to do it cool, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like while you're doing it, you also got like, you know, those clinch things where you do your like biceps, you clinch them together.
Yeah.
You could be doing that, and maybe like I don't know, like running on the spot or something. And so that way, if anyone comes
And
in,
you have those neo
they're like-
glasses, trench coats
Yeah.
on, you're in a dark room with a hoodie.
That's it, man. Like, so if somebody walks past your office, like walks past comes to us, and they're like, Connor's in the fucking zone. Like, look at him, he's hacking hard right now. He's like
He's
sweating,
punching the keyboard,
Yeah.
not actually typing anything real hard.
I assume that where there's going to be at a stand-up desk and like lots of like projected like images on the wall behind you, like a digital version of one of those maps with the strings. That's like the being cool hacker is up to you, boys.
But just like Connor said, in real life, it's usually just human error. It's through the humans where you gain access.
Yeah.
So
I know when I've lost data to banks and stuff like that, it's probably me. It's probably
The,
probably me putting my credit card
modern
details where
day
I shouldn't.
security is pretty good, like
Yeah.
mostly pretty
Yeah.
thorough for the general, like for their like 99% of everyday people can't just break in. So most of the best way to break in is, you know, you call up someone and you scrub their Facebook data to get some information from them to then maybe hack their Facebook account. You know, not even hack their Facebook account. You just like log into their Facebook account by finding their like 3 secret answers, and then from there you're like, ooh, I can get a little more information here and there. And you call up the right person in the company, be like, hey, I'm this person, you're blah, 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 and then you just get in.
Yeah. Essentially, like things are pretty secure nowadays, like inside your own like business and stuff like that. So the way they get you is they get you out of it. So they're like, oh, I need you to do a financial transfer. Come chat to me on WeChat, or come chat to me on Messenger. They'll pull you off of all your
secure places.
platform. Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it's why every email now, like you're on Gmail, you're like, hey, you're sending an email to another organization. Just be careful of sending out any information you need.
I know it's not the same thing at all, but things happens now whenever I pay bills or a big amount of money's being paid to me through the transport company, the accounts lady from those companies now will call you and be like, I'm going to transfer the money now. I need you to read your bank account details back to me. Because like there's a lot of, quite a few times actually over the past 4 or 5 years, I will send like an invoice via the computer. And when it arrives on their side, the bank details have changed on the invoice that I've sent them. So somehow they've intercepted the PDF or the email, and it's changed the like bank account details on that information. So when they receive it on their end, it's actually different, and they transfer money into the wrong account. And it's like, that's crazy that I send the email, and then in my mind, they just receive the email, but somewhere in the middle, somebody's changed it. I'm like, how the fuck does that happen? It's crazy.
So now
Fix my problem.
so what is your like everyday work like? What are you normally doing?
Honestly, yeah. So essentially, I have like, we use like a combination of like rules we create and like AI to like essentially just like take in all of this like traffic and logs and information and like generate incidents and alerts. A lot of them end up being like false positives, like someone's like started like deleting these files and stuff like that, or someone's
Gotcha.
logged in from
So
a
you're
weird
monitoring a
location.
lot of network traffic at
Yeah,
all
there's
times.
there's a lot of that. Yeah, essentially, like a common one's like, oh, someone's logged in from like New Zealand, but they're in Australia, and it's like, oh, they were using like NordVPN or something on their phone, and they caused an incident.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, it's essentially just like a lot of like due diligence and a lot of like reading through logs and stuff like that. And then occasionally you will find one of them to be like a legitimate threat, and then you resolve it from there.
Do you work with like the same people regularly or the same industry, or it's just whichever company's hired your company to look after them?
I work just for my company. I do cybersecurity just for my company.
Oh, okay. I see
Yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah, because they're quite like a large company.
Do you ever have to call a guy and be like, bro, please stop Googling that? Please.
Yeah, I've been on a phone calls. Like I've had phone calls with people where I'm like, try stay off those, suspect sites.
Yeah,
and they get
Yo,
really
get off
defensive.
the porn, Jeff. You're at work.
That's it. Like
They're
I'm
traveling for work. It's 9 p.m. and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, Jeff's going at it.
I'm like, stay off the suspected sites, like the high risk. And he's like, gets really defensive. He's like, what do you mean? What suspected sites? I'm like, okay, you're gonna
I
make me
see what you're
say
checking off to, bro.
Do you need me to read them out to you, bro? So big jugs
Do you,
number
do you
4.
quite enjoy what you're doing now as well? Like you enjoying the cybersecurity?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's like that weird part of you when you join cybersecurity where like you kind of you start getting bored when nothing's going wrong. You're like, I want something to happen, man. Like, yeah.
So do you have any like good stories? Like, do you have any standout like, oh man, this happened once?
I don't know how much I can talk about.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So it's usually the little like like you just have someone on the wrong websites at the wrong time kind of thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I think that if it's getting too dull, we're using Jeff as our makeshift pretend guy
Yeah.
that we're talking
Oh
about.
yeah, we're gonna use that.
It's I like to think that if he's not doing anything, you can send him prompts like adverts or something to his phone, so he goes onto the suspect website to give you something interesting to do. Right? You're like, Jeff's been pretty quiet tonight. Let's send him
I'll just
some
send him a few
adverts
spam
from some
emails.
websites. Yeah.
Yeah. You ring Jeff. Oh yeah, it's getting pretty boring over here. Can you got porn again? Yeah. So you mentioned you're on blue team. So you're on more the network defense and analyst
Correct,
style of things.
yeah.
Did you ever want to be on red team at all? Or?
I've done it a bit. I've got a bit of experience in it. But mainly I just prefer blue team.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like an investigator at heart.
Yeah.
Like I like
The forensics.
the forensics, piecing things together. You get the string board up and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Right now in uni, it's while the your phone just went off, dude.
It's my watch. I must have pressed something.
While the blue, like the analyst and network defense style things is definitely the way to go, for a job. The red team stuff where you're hacking and doing pen testing does sound exciting.
It is.
It is way more like exhilarating, but also it's a way harder job. That's for sure.
I definitely think it sounds like you're very interested in like red team.
It
yourself.
sounds like it would be a lot of fun, but ultimately, I imagine as a career, I'll end up probably on blue team or a consultant or some sort of.
I think you could do red team, but you just will need to build your experience in blue team
Correct,
first. They don't let straight out of uni go into red team because it's like you could cause so much damage if you do it incorrectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just going back to Pokemon, you've got to hit all the gyms first, all right? Get all your little badges
Yeah.
in blue, and then you can advance to red.
Yeah. There's a bunch of certificates you really want to get as well to prove yourself.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Originally, I was planning this summer to get my OffSec security.
Oh, yeah.
Offensive security is like a big company that does they do certificates for pen testing and stuff. I had to look into it and I was like, I wouldn't be able to complete this in 2 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you get like an entry level cyber position, you can get one out of uni, and they'll pay for you to do your certs, which
there you go.
definitely do that because they can get pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Like up to like $1,000 to do like a certificate.
Because it's a
More.
full course. You're paying for effectively a university course.
Yeah. So you want to make sure you have the time and effort to put into it, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Where do you see yourself, say, 10 years from now, Connor?
I definitely want to move more into the forensic side of things. I actually was like my original dream goal is I wanted to actually go into the police as like a cybercrime like unit and stuff like that.
I hear some rough stories. I know.
Yeah, that was my concern. As
I know
well.
it pays quite well, and I know like obviously you're in a police government position, so you get a lot of benefits as well. But I have heard about the turnover.
Yeah, I can imagine the stuff you're seeing day in, day out, working cybercrime of all things is going to be pretty rough. That's the thing that kind of puts me on the fence about it.
Do you get anything that's close to like a borderline, like what a police would see?
Luckily, I haven't had to deal with
Okay.
any of that stuff personally myself. Yeah, except for the odd porn website, but that's nothing by comparison, really.
There's the classic story of, the budding computer science kid growing up where they, get bored and they download Tor or Onion browser,
classic,
and they
yeah.
like decide to browse the deep web.
Is Tor like an access to the deep web? Is it?
It's a browser effectively. It just lets you because what happens is your internet security, your internet service provider, ISP, scrubs away. They won't let you just look up certain things. But these browsers effectively work as they let you actually go onto these websites.
As like a flat normie, can you explain what the dark web is to the web and what the web is?
The dark web is just everything your ISP doesn't let you check out.
Well, yeah.
It's more that it exists, it still is there, but like Google is like stopping you from getting anywhere near that.
Not even Google, but your internet service provider. Just your internet service provider
It's like
itself.
Optus itself is stopping
Yeah.
things from going near my phone.
Because everything you type on the internet has to go through effectively just think of it as an internet phone book. Mm-hmm. It's called a DNS, and everything has to go to the internet phone book. And your ISP can just be like, no, not at that part of the phone book.
Interesting.
It's less that they block it, from what I understand. It's just that the darknet doesn't, like, essentially for all your online sites, they have like a spider that goes through and like picks everything up and then categorizes and says like, these are the sites. If you search Facebook, these are the sites that come up. All the dark websites are the stuff that doesn't get picked up.
Yeah.
It doesn't get
They're
seen.
just individual. For example, most legitimate like crime websites, you can't just Google it. Like a guy would just be like, hey, this is the ISP. So not ISP. This is the IP. This is the IP. This is just the direct address.
So like a directory, like a string of letters and words, and that's what you put in to get there.
Because everything on the internet is just an address. Your website is just an address, right? And it's just your IP address. And so some guy would be like, hey, you want to buy drugs? This is the IP address to go buy drugs from.
Yeah.
You can't just Google it. So what happens is the same thing happens in the dark web where the secret is once you download like Tor, nothing actually changes. You just have a web browser. And then suddenly you're like, well, now you're looking in to see if you can find any Wikipedias to be like, oh, this catalogs all the websites on the dark web, and most of it is just nothing.
I do like that you need the web to find the websites of the websites.
Yeah.
And you always get like as a kid, you go down the rabbit hole. It's like clicking on links, and you're like, is this actually this? Is this it? And then every now and again you'll find be like, I don't want to click that link anymore.
Yeah. 99% of it's all going to be scams. Like, I don't think there's many still around, to be honest.
Correct. And these days it's pretty policed. It's fairly policed.
Correct.
Yeah. I feel like it's definitely not now. I don't really fucking care to be honest now. But it's like when I was younger and I was using a computer, I definitely was very curious, but I never wanted to touch it because I know I'd be the guy to accidentally get like. I'd press the thing and then just swat at my door the next day. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I honestly didn't know what I was doing, and all of a sudden, I'm getting hauled off to jail for like opening some shit that I.
It's why I think pedophiles get caught all the time, because I think it's mostly just dumbasses. Because I sincerely think on the internet it's pretty scrubbed.
Yeah,
it's pretty monitored.
Yeah.
And it's all police.
Again, not the same thing, but I watch a lot of those videos where people like use decoys to lure them to the shopping center to meet like a 12-year-old girl and they just beat the shit out of them. Like I watch a lot of those, and I'm like, there's a lot of guys getting caught who think they're talking to 14-year-old like boys and girls. You know what I
think why the usually it's people with connections or like high profile, like Subway Jared.
Trying
that has all the
trying to be real incognito.
because average Joe Jeff over there, isn't just going to be like looking up, hey, child porn.
Like,
so casual.
Yeah.
early 2000s darknet, completely different
For sure.
story. Like, the fact that we're talking about the darknet existing already is going to be the fact that like it's so widely known now, it's going to be policed. Like, everyone's aware of it. Whereas like back then it was very like,
Yeah, it was like
not many
2000,
people knew about it.
2010, you just like go on the Silk Road and you could just be like, oh, these guys are buying drugs from people.
Yeah, just once they start talking about the Silk Road like on general media and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
then it's done.
Yeah. It was definitely a lot of like 2004 4chan where I was like, ooh,
So do we have to be worried about a darker web existing? Like, can layers continue to add on?
There's theories. Yeah. Yeah.
It gets to a certain point where it's just not internet. It's just a dude running a server and he's just like, this is how you connect to my thing. So.
what's the dead internet theory? I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I'm very familiar with it.
What's this?
Yeah.
I'll let you explain it.
Essentially, like, from what I understand, it is like there's so much like AI content out there that eventually, like, pretty much like all of the internet won't even be like human made. It'll all be AI, and you won't even know if you're like interacting with a real human being.
I'm experiencing that a lot right now already, where you'll get to a certain point where so much content is being pumped onto the internet through AI and also engagement through AI, because that's the best way to get people, interested in things and getting you reacting or buying things. And big corporations are really pushing AI nowadays as well, where you could reach a certain point where it's so saturated by artificial content, you can't tell if it's real or fake anymore.
Well, supposedly, Instagram in the last couple of years have added a thing. So I don't know if you remember back in the day when Instagram, when you could scroll far enough, you would get a screen with a little tick and it'd be like, oh, you've caught up on everything. I don't know if do you remember seeing that? It would apparently that doesn't happen now. What happens is once you get to the bottom of the things that are being fed to you naturally, it'll then try to feed you things that your people that you're following will feed to.
Yeah.
But eventually, if you literally just scroll for hours and hours and hours, then it'll get to a point where Instagram will then start creating like AI generated
The algorithm will
feed
fire you things.
I didn't know that.
And they were talking about that at some sort of like tech meeting. I just obviously just watch snippets of like videos on fucking Instagram reels of all places. But it's that's what they're talking about. It's like it will start generating content for you to fill in because you clearly want to keep scrolling, and they're like, well, we're going to keep you scrolling.
Yeah.
And it's like, because a lot of people complain about like, oh, it's the app's fault. But I'm like, I don't know. If you've scrolled that long that the computer has to make shit up for you, that's kind of on you, man.
I'm already I see this a lot as like kind of a chronically online guy where Facebook, for example, just half the posts I see are just AI generated content now. It's just absolute, just like nothing, just junk. And then on Twitter, now called X, where you hear the comment section of a post, and it's just full of like very blatantly, you can tell an AI wrote this, just full of comments where it's just AI.
Yeah.
So much so there's like, you get famous screenshots of people fucking around with AI where you comment the AI and you send it a prompt and the AI just breaks.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is so much the social media works the best by just punching out as much as you can.
Correct.
Like I watched this like kind of like YouTube like educational thing on this guy, how he would excel his Instagram accounts to like 100,000 followers by just posting 24 to 30 times a day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but it's like that's so many posts, and it clearly the system worked because that worked consistently for him to be able to make this pages big enough to then sell on, or like for companies to use him and pay him to do it, the assets for them. But like you can't make 30 posts worth of good content a day. It's just about having numbers.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's just all just trash getting sent out.
So
just flooding the waters with trash. And
it's
like, do I do the boards to get 1,000 more followers on Instagram? Do you guys want to see 30 posts a day? Nobody wants that. I don't have 30 ideas a day.
With social media. I'm gonna use X for an example because it's easy one, right? So the best way to keep someone engaged is just by making them angry. So like I had to quit the app because it's like the algorithm found out the best way to keep me engaged was just sending me things that on purposely pissed me off. And you just keep clicking and scrolling and reading things, and I was like, why am I doing this? This is clearly just engagement baiting. They're trying to keep me in. Much so what happens now on internet as well, where because you can make ad revenue, right? And in order to make ad revenue, you have to have people click on your thing or watch an ad. So people on the internet now just on purposely being just trolls, just to get that enraged, that bait, to get people commenting, so people click and they farm ad revenue. One of our community members here, Jimmy, is an internet troll, and he makes money off X just by being annoying.
That's wild, man.
Yeah. So Jim will come in and be like, "Oh man, I just tweeted this thing on the internet. I pissed off a bunch of Warhammer nerds, and he just made money out of it."
Well, how does he make money? Who's paying him money?
I don't know. Like he just farms some ad revenue from his posts. And there's a thing now where you'll see this a lot on Instagram as well, and also Twitter, X, whatever, where if your post reaches a certain amount of likes, an ad agency will come over and be like, "Hey, can you promote this for us? We'll pay you like $200."
Really?
And then the person will just pin his own comment on the comments, where he'll be like, "Also, by the way, buy this lamp or buy this thing." So,
You have those like celebrities where they're like, oh, just got up this morning, they take a photo and there's like a very obvious like product placement like right next to them and stuff like that. Yeah.
And that's the internet we live in now, where it's not about genuine content. It's about getting as much clicks and farming money. And same thing with news media now, where it's just anything in the headlines that can get you clicking.
Yeah, I guess it's just the modern version of like those magazines you'd see at the petrol station. You know what I mean?
So that's why we're feeling that dead internet theory.
For real. Yeah.
So the dead's referring to the fact that it's just so full of crud that it's like it's
essentially, yeah.
Just an ocean full of garbage.
Well, I've mentioned it here on the podcast before, but I remember because I don't know how old you are, Connor, but like at 33, I've been around for like the dawning of like home internet. You know what I mean? I was there before the internet, like was in people's houses, at least here in Australia, and then the internet came to the house via dial-up, and it was literally like the same thing. Like there wasn't many websites. Like pre-Google, there's like you'd have to know, kind of like in the same version.
Yeah, you were around when Yahoo was like number one.
Yeah, like when same way you explained the dark web thing before Google, you just had to know the website you're going to. So like when we're at school, I would do stuff with our vice principal. I don't know why I have the stroke every time we talk about the vice principal from school. I did this last time. I don't know
what do you mean? Wait, what?
I keep forgetting what it is. Vice principal. Yeah, I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's fine. Anyway, he would give us websites to go to.
Stroke? What?
I don't know. Every time I try to talk about the vice principal from primary school.
This is new to me. You've never talked about the vice principal.
I definitely have.
I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, I remember he came to my house. He gave me Flock from Warhammer. I talked about
that guy.
Yeah, that guy. Anyway, yeah. And he had the.
Are you struggling to remember his name?
No, yeah. What a vice principal was called.
That's what it's
called. Yeah, I don't know what it makes. It feels weird coming out of my face. Anyway.
Oh, he's the second in command to the president called.
Yeah,
Vice president.
But that's why it confusing me because that makes sense. Anyway, he would give us homework to do or stuff to do, and he would write out like in pen all like the website we'd have to go to and go look at home. Yeah. And because like you couldn't just Google anything, and then like Google comes along, and then you can just search for stuff. And now but there was like you'd Google game stores in WA. Mm-hmm. It was like only so many people were online, like stores would be online, or like things referring to it, so you could find what you're looking for quite easy. Now, if you Google game stores in Perth, what really you're going to get is probably like a Gameology link and like a bunch of like links to things that are referred to games.
Just optimized SEO.
Yeah, before you get anywhere near the thing you're looking for. And it's like, I feel like now we're at a point where finding things on the internet is fucking hard work. Like I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
We've reached the opposite of where, because Google has so much control of what you see, we just kind of let this one organization effectively controls what we can look at. Because
do you ever do the DuckDuckGo thing? Did you try it like a different browser?
I tried it. It pops up with different things.
It does pop up with different things.
But ultimately, it's just slightly more inconvenient than Google, and so you're always going to go back to Google. Yeah. Especially like I would suspect most people nowadays just uses Chrome. Yeah. Right. And then Chrome just has an inbuilt Google browser. So these days, I don't know about you guys, but I don't even type in the website anymore. I just type in the name and then just hit Google, go.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I heard that like the number one thing Googled on Explorer was Chrome. Like
yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Which is it's like if you put the like personalities on like inanimate objects as a like thing, it just must be real depressing.
But the ultimate intelligence test of humanity is also the most Googled thing is Google.
True.
Well, anytime you try to download like Chrome on Edge, it starts begging you with pop-ups like, no, Edge is good. Please trust us.
True. Somebody's like teams have spent millions of dollars and hundreds of hours of time fixing Edge for still to know how to use it.
Yeah, for real.
Edge comes up with a pop-up being like, did you know that we're actually better than Chrome? We have all these cool features and we're actually faster. And you're like, skip. Is
Edge just Microsoft's version of it?
Yeah, correct.
Do you think it's worth them spending money? You think like, because these things would cost money, why do they even bother?
They want your data. System? That's what they want.
Do you reckon at Microsoft they make you use Edge? Like you have to use Edge? Like you're sitting at a desk, you're like, fuck.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Because I use I have an iPhone, so I just use Safari. Like I have the Chrome like app on the phone, but I just use Safari because it's there.
Safari's not terrible. The secret is actually all the browsers are fine.
Yeah.
Even Edge is fine.
I'm way too basic to know the difference.
It's just that everyone has a Google account, but even though like you have a Google account, so Chrome is more convenient, but even saying that, Edge actually integrates your Google account now as well.
Yeah.
Oh. It doesn't really matter anymore.
It's just a weird orgy of all the different browsers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember me talking earlier on, so I've just cut you off like 4 times.
No, you're all good.
I said I was going to go around and do reviews of food under the Boardcast Google. Do you remember me talking about that?
Yeah.
I've been doing that for ages. So every time I go to a lunch bar, I leave a review as the Boardcast about how good
that's your way of marketing us?
It's a way, not the way, but it's a way. But at some point, I didn't realize that the Chrome account had logged into my Taxi Trucks one. So I've actually been leaving for quite a while. I'd go to a lunch bar and be like, 10 out of 10, frick chicken wings.
That just seems like a legitimate review. You're just a trucking company leaving reviews for lunch bars.
But yeah, I thought it was under the Boardcast was leaving it. And I thought that'd be funny if somebody came across and like, instead of just like, Jill Frank is like leaving a thing, it's like the Boardcast, but actually I've been doing it as my taxi truck company. So it's just like, why is this truck company leaving a review of my like roast beef sandwich?
So anyway, I guess we've talked about work enough now here. So back to recreation and hobbies. We're a hobby podcast after all as well. Outside of Pokemon, what do you play normally?
I play a bit of Kill Team. Aside from that, like big like tabletop.
Were you
person.
originally a tabletop guy or a card game guy?
Probably. Funnily enough, I would say like gaming guy, and then
Nice.
like the gaming would like expose me to like these other things. Like I do remember for like I played like Hearthstone before I played Magic, for example, and stuff like that.
Interesting.
And
That was me as well.
Yeah, and that
Oh, really?
yeah, and that got me to be like, oh, I can't even remember. I went to like a card shop or whatever, and I just picked up like it was like a 2016 like pre-con commander deck or whatever, and I was just like, oh, let's give this a shot after like playing Hearthstone because I wanted to give like another card like a physical card game a shot. So it's the same thing with like how I got into like LARP is I played a game that was based in the same like universe as like that it was in. So yeah, gaming's kind of been my
I forgot
link.
that was the whole point we talked about getting on in the first place.
I thought I'd just slide that
Yeah,
in there.
yeah. So LARPing is quickly explain LARPing for the people that don't know.
Okay, so in like simple terms, LARPing is just like tabletop RPG, but you're standing up, and I guess you're in like a costume, right? That's real simple.
Does
way of
LARP
doing
stand
it.
for something?
Live action role play.
There we go.
Yeah, so
Okay.
your tabletop role play, live action. You're walk around, you're doing
the
things.
things.
Right?
As far as I'm aware, you'll have very large communities get together and they'll just assume like the ID and they'll just kind of immerse themselves into this universe.
Correct. There's like there's quite like full on ones where like you go away for like 3 days and go camping in the wilderness and you're like in character.
do the
and
character
stuff
the
like,
whole time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
sick.
real. But
Do you have to have like a special like word, like pineapple or something, so if something goes wrong, where you have to be out?
you have hand signals to indicate that you're like out of character and stuff like that.
Do you get to choose what character you want to be?
Yeah, you get it's same tabletop rules usually. You get to build a character from scratch. You get to do your whole backstory.
Everyone's
kinda
just
what you
cool
wanna
and badass all the time.
be. I've seen a lot of like goofy characters. It all just comes down to like personal preference. But
I would roleplay as someone who doesn't have a job. Be fucking good. I should be homeless for a week, you know.
You just swap places with some people from our community.
No, I need a bathe still.
but
You do the vampire one, right?
I do, correct. So like with LARP, there's like really two types. You have like I would say you're like what's mainly called like your combat LARP, which is like the LARP that people think about, you know, fireball, hit you with foam sword sort of thing. But then you have parlor LARPs, and parlor LARPs don't really have that combat stuff. They're more just like they're more about like the social game. They're like and when you and like there's not really physical combat in that sort of sense. When you do combat it, you do like a dice check essentially.
Okay, you
and
get
stuff like
together and
that.
just have a social event.
Yeah, essentially,
awesome.
essentially. Like we run a vampire LARP. I say like I'm like one of the storytellers like of a big team. It's like Peter, Pete who goes here.
yeah.
He's the one who like wrote all the rules for it. He's the one who initially like
So
started it.
you're
up.
like the game masters to a Dungeons and Dragons game, effectively.
Yeah. So a dungeon master, the vampire equivalent's just called a storyteller. So I do a lot of the like the story and the writing and the characters and stuff like that. But essentially we do like we have a episode we'd call it like a month, and then that the year that's a season. And so we've just completed season 1 of our LARP, which is like Perth by Night. So it is set in Perth, and we have like.
So this is Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah, this is Vampire.
And the
the
setting
Masquerade.
of the Vampire the Masquerade is Perth.
Yes,
I think
correct.
when we first talked about Vampire the Masquerade on this podcast, I mentioned, hey, there's a thing that people do when they play Vampire Masquerade
Yeah.
because it's in an urban modern day setting. People love the idea of, hey, we're just going to set it in Perth because everyone knows about this place because we live here.
So
Yeah.
do you guys meet up at a certain place, or
We rent out venues and stuff like that. We sell
that's
tickets for our
cool.
LARP. We get about like last event, I think we had like upwards of like 40 people. So we get like pretty big turnout and stuff like that.
the businessman inside me, like it's like if you because you write a story and then it goes for like a season, like per episode or per season. If it goes really well and you have good records of it, there's no reason you couldn't sell that as a package to people online.
Well,
as
it's
well.
funny you say that because Peter's currently writing a book.
Yeah.
That's getting
He
all
sent
of
me a
season
link
1
for it.
together. Yeah, yeah.
Because that was like when I write the fantasy leagues. That was always my intention. Was like, well, for a couple of dollars, I could sell this entire. I put all this effort into this story arc and like how you integrate with the game. The ideas that I could then sell it as like an ebook or something online for a couple of dollars, and just I put a whole year's worth of effort into it. Maybe I could do something with that and make it like expendable online. So it's like it seems like the perfect situation here because you put so much time and effort and nuance into having it go. So it's a shame that once it's all gone, it's like you guys are done for the year that it can't be used again. But it's obviously that's the perfect way to do it.
Yeah. We try put it in a book and we like carry it on. We have season 2 and the stories progress and they continue on. But essentially, like how the story works in that way is like you're only meeting each month. So each character you're kind of like meeting at a point to all like discuss what's happened, but your character still has a story throughout the entire month. And that's the writing that like I mainly do. We call like downtime. So you have the actual events that we host where you have that one night, but then your character still needs story development throughout the entire time. So then what they do is they give us storytellers prompts and we can write what happens kind of over their time. Yeah. So it's quite writing heavy.
You help weave the story together.
Yeah, correct. Plant like little seeds, pit people against each other.
Do you maintain just a storyteller role, or do you have your own character too?
I do have my own character.
Ooh.
So yeah, I've got a cowboy. He's from like the actual like American frontier time, and he's just been around like that long.
Oh, gas.
Hasn't updated like any of his wardrobe. He's like stubborn old
what
man.
clan
To
is
be
he
fair,
from?
if you go into most towns in WA, he'd fit right in, so you get very right.
The classic like dusty saloon door opens up, your character walks in.
Yeah, for real. So I've got like a replica revolver that's like actually like proper metal and stuff like that. And he's you asked which clan he was. He's like Banu Hakim, or he's like the Azamites. So they're like the assassin sort of like clan, because you have your clans in Vampire, which are like
It's one of the lesser known clans because it's not in the core book, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So your clans essentially are like what's your like vampire fantasy, and a lot of the different clans are based off of like I would say like vampire stereotypes in media from all the time. So like Nosferatu is Nosferatu, right? But like
The ghoulish looking vampires.
yeah, but like the Toreador would be like your Twilight vampire. They even like sparkle in the sunlight and do all that crap,
love
right?
that.
Yeah.
It's effectively the same thing as choose your race in a fantasy game.
Yeah.
Because your clan decides on most of your abilities.
Yeah,
And how
so
you are.
They have abilities, but they all of them have like a lethal flaw that you can't avoid. Like the Toreador, they're really pretty, they're sparkling stuff like that. But if they like look at their reflection, they can get like stuck looking at their reflection and they can't do anything and stuff like that.
What is it like Guile themselves?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Beguile. I think
And it's cool because the lore for this universe, the Vampire the Masquerade universe, goes very far. They have a lot of history on why these clans come from. They usually come from families, or they originate from powerful ancient vampires.
So in your story, does the general population of Perth know that you exist or don't know you exist?
No, so it's Vampire the Masquerade, because the main point of them is there needs to be a masquerade. Vampires need to be hidden from society to like survive, because you have like for every like 1,000, 5,000 people, you have like one vampire. So you're just extremely outnumbered. So they keep the masquerade so they can keep themselves
And a regular
safe.
human, while not by himself, but like a human in a mob can very easily take down a vampire.
Yeah. So
I'm clearly massive and strong and jacked, so I'll fight many vampires.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Bruja.
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say Bruja, but
So is that part of like the mystique in the masquerade, is the fact that like secrecy has to be kept?
yeah, like they do a lot of this. Like if you love conspiracy theories, World of Darkness,
dude,
which
I
is
love it.
which is what Vampire the Masquerade is in. That's like a bigger world, is like perfect for
They
that.
have
Like,
they have ancient ties of like the Templar Knights and the Illuminati and how that all ties into the vampires.
Dracula was an actual vampire, but they just made a story out of him, so you thought it was a funny story.
He
and
got
stuff
caught
like
out. And
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
like, we gotta keep it.
And
Exactly.
this universe shares this. While this Vampire the Masquerade universe exists, it also shares the same universe with there are vampire hunters. There are also werewolves. It's a generally larger modern day fantasy setting. And the Masquerade is this cool idea of all these clans have to come together and enforce this almost like pseudo government on each other to maintain their survival.
Oh, because they don't want like someone going rogue and
Correct.
So they all have to maintain the
letting all the
Masquerade.
humies know.
So that's what.
It's like Hogwarts for vampires.
Effectively.
well, there is
essentially
mages, there's wizards. So
It's a
yeah.
really exactly. There's also casters. There's a really good. You actually gave a fantastic way to describe it. It is just like Hogwarts. It's like Harry Potter.
Do they celebrate Christmas?
I think so, because Cain is like an actual
Yeah.
biblical
The
figure.
biblical
that's
people
the
are
original
deeply
vampire.
entrenched.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe.
Wait, I've talked about. Did you guys watch that Red One over the Christmas break?
Oh, that's the new movie with The Rock.
Yeah.
No.
Apparently it was bad, but I thought it was good. So I just realized I got no taste.
Is it? It looked terrible, but I'm sure it's a turn the brain off and just have fun with it.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. They had like Krampus and shit in there, which was like, he's Santa's evil brother, who's the Krampus was the goat man who would original story of Christmas wasn't to to reward kids for being good. It was to scare kids to not be bad. So like original Krampus in like I don't know, like Dutch areas and shit. If you were bad, Krampus would come at Christmas and eat your legs off while you slept in bed. And like that would like, you know, so it was basically like, don't be bad or Krampus will eat your legs. And kids are like, fuck, I don't know.
Nah, they can't eat my legs because I got my legs tucked in my blankets.
And then they're like the witch lady, which I forget her name now, but that was like they added some of the more historical like Norscan like storytelling, I guess, and added that into it. It was quite fun. But anyway, I thought it was quite fun. And then I read after the reviews were how bad and everyone talked how trash it was. I was like, well, I guess
just be happy. Just enjoy what you enjoy. You know, don't worry about other people's opinions.
But they set them up. In like, the only reason I mentioned it really is because they set them up to have a much wider, like mythological thing. Because at some point they go to like the mythological version of the FBI, and there's like the headless horseman, and there's like they allowed themselves to have like breakaways for like Halloween and other like holiday events. And I do like the idea of those, like, so you leave like the Vampire Masquerade, but you have the Werewolf Bros. I don't know, did you ever watch
the werewolves don't get along with the vampires?
Yeah, did you ever watch like What We Did in the Shadows?
Oh yeah.
You know,
essential Vampire the Masquerade watching material right there. Yeah.
It's like when they have the werewolves have like to fight with the vampires, but they're all kind of pathetic. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to see like a community of people get together and just embrace this, engage in this fantasy universe and just have some fun with it as well.
Yeah.
It's super cool to see. Do you have any standout tales or favorite like characters of your players?
Oh, for real. Yeah. We essentially, for like the main story of like season 1 was like all the vampires in Perth, there's no leadership. So everyone had to vote in who they call it the prince or the leader for the local vampire sect, right? And who's going to be the leader. And the nominees were amongst the actual players, and they weren't like part of the like event organizer or anything. They're just players who had been in the right social position to do it. Season 1 was started in like, I want to say like June, July or whatever. It was eight episodes.
Okay, wow. So you guys went for over 6 months.
Yeah. And then, so we did the Prince vote, and it was quite good. So each player, you get a vote, and there's an anonymous ballot, and you get votes equal to your social score for like if you're character building or whatever. But people were like selling votes, and people were like manipulating votes. But what was really good was there was 3 candidates running at last point, and one of them was going to be a surefire win. And the guy who was going to lose essentially like he called in a favor to check what the votes were going to be before they had been fully counted, and then he used his vote to swing it to the other person.
Whoa, a last minute switcheroo.
Yeah.
And how is so you guys get together and you engage in this role play and stuff? Is there any sort of like conflict? What's like is it just a social?
Oh no, there's definitely combat. So I built a combat character. Yeah, you can get into like physical altercations and stuff like that. A lot of that physical altercation usually comes in during downtime, like when I'm writing stories for you, because physical confrontation in the actual like LARP itself is a bit more difficult. It happens and stuff like that, but usually it's like
Jeff takes it too seriously, starts swinging. At
Yeah.
people.
yeah.
I like Jeff's made it out of the dark web, but now he's in here.
Yep.
We've essentially like simplified the actual tabletop rules a lot, so you're not having to roll dice. Essentially, you just do like a number check. I've got a physical score of like 7. You've got 4.
Yeah.
We just check. I would win the fight, and then we just play it out and we act it out.
This is me engaging in the masquerade roleplay now. Like where's the common hanging out grounds of the vampires in the masquerade?
Yeah, so we're the like. You have like the different factions. You have the Anarchs and you have the Camarilla. We're the Camarilla, so we're the more like high society vampires or whatever. So we always hang out at like city halls and that sort of thing.
They're just down at Rockpool, just putting money on the.
That is where they would hang out.
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
And where do the Anarchs hang out and stuff?
So the Anarchs. So it's funny you mentioned that. Before this LARP that Pete ran, there was another vampire LARP before, and that's the one that I used to play. But that was an Anarch one. And the Anarch one was like hang out in like Fremantle, Rockingham and stuff like that. Yeah. Bars and all that. Yeah.
In Perth, are there also vampire hunters and other?
Yeah, there's I've read a lot of that, so I'll try not to spoil too much that's not being revealed yet. But yeah, we've got werewolves, we've got vampire hunters. There's even like lesser known factions like Quajin, which are like the eastern versions of like the western
Asian
vampires.
vampires.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of factions.
The fun part of
If I played a Quajin, would that be racist? Would it be vampire racist?
the Quajin aren't really exciting.
Is that racist? Should they not be exciting?
Vampire the Masquerade been around for a long time. I think Quajian book was written in like the 90s. Yeah, the 90s.
Oh, so this thing's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Several editions of the book.
You can assume that a 90s book on Eastern Asian vampires is probably not very politically correct.
Classic history books on that
It's
one.
your classic, like super pale, like zombie, like because in Eastern Asian culture we have we don't have the zombies in the modern day tale. We have like zombies as like undead, as in these dudes jumping around, hopping around. So, and that's a lot of that myth is built on.
Have you ever seen like you go back into like the early Disney books, like the first book on the Seven Dwarfs? You ever seen stuff like that? And it's like, the worst one is actually the chocolate factory guy. What's it called?
Charlie
Willy
and
Wonka.
Yeah, the Willy Wonka
yeah.
chocolate factory. The original book of that is actually like it's based on like a tribe of pygmies. All the Oompa Loompas are a tribe of pygmies from Africa.
see.
Oh, wow.
And it talks about them in very horrifically blunt ways, but also it's a picture book. It's drawn the African people as these.
Yeah.
So obviously when they did the first movie, they really had to change it up. But all the original source material is like, whoa, horrific.
Yeah. Essentially, like Vampire the Masquerade came out like early on. A lot of stuff's been rewritten recent times.
There's the classic internet nerd debate of in the newest edition of the Vampire the Masquerade core book, they've done a lot of like cleaning up of like old edgy kind of like lore and a lot more like they made the book a lot more politically correct, which did also anger a lot of like long time.
Yeah, I get it.
gamers.
It's kind of like when Warhammer
But you
got
can't
rid of like
please
the
every
boobs
side.
and Slanesh.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can't please everyone, no matter what you do.
Is
you
it
have
the
to kind
same-
of evolve the game.
Is it the same guy who's doing it, or is it like a company that owns it?
It's a company that owns it, but that company has changed a few times now, I
Interesting.
believe. The publishing and the writing has been, it's been moved around. Originally it was White Wolf, but if I'm correct, like it got sold and moved around.
If I remember correctly, the Vampire the Masquerade franchise in general has been through like moments of financial jeopardy as well.
Yeah,
of who
correct,
actually owns
correct.
the license.
It was like really, really popular when it originally released, like peak like goth culture. They loved that, but it kind of like it's like a very popular RPG, but in an RPG space, you're really fighting uphill to battle like Dungeons and Dragons. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people like
Dungeons and Dragons owns like the entire market.
Yeah.
And then after that it's Pathfinder, and then everything else fights to scraps.
It's crazy when you think about again as someone who's not in that world at all. It's hard to think of D&D as not just the thing itself, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Like you think activity is D&D. Like I realized when the stint that I did for a couple of years, I actually played Pathfinder, but I didn't know well enough to know that I thought D&D Pathfinder was just a version of D&D, if that makes sense.
kind of
You know?
is.
it actually, kind of.
No, there you
Pathfinder
go.
is just D&D 3.5. And they kind of just veered off and did their own thing. The universe effectively shares monsters and traits.
Got it. And it's like, then it's like, obviously for like, especially for RPG gaming, the world of Stranger Things did such a big job of bringing it into like the zeitgeist, like the regular zeitgeist.
I had families come in specifically being like, we saw this Dungeons and Dragons things through Stranger Things. So, and that brought it in.
You think about like when D&D came out in the 80s, it was still like the satanic panic, and like people thought it was gonna like bring on the devil. I imagine if they knew there was a vampire one, like there's like you're already starting as like devil spawn.
But the whole point of the Vampire the Masquerade is that they embrace that, like, your mom will hate this. It's that
Yeah.
So it's real edgy.
Yeah, because they purposely had things like biblical references that they spun into like myth.
So were you at home on like MSN Messenger, Connor, being like, Mom popped the wrong Pop-Tarts. We're going to be vampires tonight.
I dyed my hair black and had an emo swoop in high school. So
I love that.
man.
So have you played this for a long time then?
Vampire the Masquerade, I've played the games quite a long time.
same.
I only recently probably back like 2018, I started playing like the tabletop. The problem was like, if you're the RPG person out of your friend group, you're running it. And I wanted to play the game,
Exactly.
right? And then I'm looking around for essentially groups
You were
to play
the
with.
perma DM.
Yeah. And I'm looking around for groups to play with, but I'm only finding Dungeons and Dragons. And that's how I ended up finding LARP, is in my attempts to find a tabletop game of Vampire the Masquerade, I could find only a LARP. And I was like, you know what? we'll give it a shot.
I feel like that's like the holy grail. Like you're looking for like a surface version of the game, and then you're like, you guys dress up and do this? That's fucking sick. You know what I mean?
The ultimate power, I think, of Vampire the Masquerade is because it's in an urban setting, you can just immerse yourself into this assumption that this world exists and you can live it.
You don't need like a movie set to get started.
D&D is very clearly fantasy and you separate it from your real life. But Vampire the Masquerade, while you play, you can just immerse yourself into like, hey man, this exists in Perth and this is a thing. And part of the fun is just letting yourself believe in this. And that's where the power of the LARPing, I think, comes in as well.
Yeah, correct. I personally find like Vampire is much more immersive as like a LARP. Fantasy LARPs are actually by far the most popular. People like the combat in the fantasy LARPs. Vampires like...
That's when you get some dudes go out and they'll like pay for entire suits of armor, right?
Yeah, correct. They want to like hit each other with foam swords and stuff like that. But for me, Vampire is the most like immersive experience because it's already set in the modern day and the masquerade itself is already, it's a hidden society. So it's very easy to put yourself in the mind that, it's been there all along.
It's got the fanciful coverage that it exists, right?
Exactly. I mean, you do get a lot of problems in LARP, which we call like bleed essentially, where like maybe you're having a confrontation with someone in character and it starts to bleed over into the real person's. So yeah, LARP can get pretty heavy sometimes.
Like I know he was just LARPing, but he called me ugly like a lot.
Yeah. Or it goes reverse where it's like, I really don't like that person, but in game we actually were supposed to be friends, but then I'm, that sort of stuff happens. Yeah.
You're still humans having interactions with each other.
Exactly. So there's like, we do a lot as like a team to like manage that. Like at the very end of the session, we all do like a Macarena to like get our heads like out of it. And like,
just something completely off, just like turn your brain.
Exactly.
The people on the other side of the park are real confused.
So is there a person to contact if someone wanted to get into the LARP? So this is a call to action. Like if there's people that want to jump in.
Yeah, sure. They can reach out either to like me directly or Peter. Tyler's even working on the LARP.
Any listeners as well, if you want to get on this action as well, feel free to just message the Boardcast on the boards. I'll be able to point you in the right direction, send you some links.
Because we are yet to start season 2, so if anyone would like to jump in, it's like the perfect time to do so.
Awesome stuff.
What would your vampire name be, Kang?
Kang. I'm real boring. Dude, I'm
the least imaginative person I've ever met.
When I go into a video game and when you get greeted with a character creator and you're like, name your character, I'm like, K-A-N-G, Kang. That's me. That character's
I guess it's already such a unique name within itself. It's hard to.
If you gave me an hour, I would come up with something cool. But
it's Kang with like a Sylvanian accent. Kang.
It's Kang, but instead of A, it's a 4, and have an underscore
like a
at the
Marvel
end of my
movie.
name. Yeah.
What's your character name called?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, don't worry. Like, I picked a cowboy and I named him Dallas. So
there we go.
I do like that your vampire could be from only around a time before Dallas was even a state or a town,
correct.
city, whatever.
Yeah, no, I've written. I've got a bit of background on that.
Oh,
so, we did it. I like to go into like writing my whole backstory for my character and get into that headspace.
Character creation is the best part of RPG.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. And we're reaching the 1 hour 30 mark. So. Any last words you guys want to say? Any send-offs? This has been a good episode.
Thank you it's fun.
No, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
This has been awesome.
We should. You know how I did that weird D&D thing I did with the dice? We should do the same thing, but as a vampire one.
Oh, we get Connor on and he has to...
I was going to mention that those bullet dice, I could have those for my gun at the LARP.
I was going to say that to you, but I was like, am I just selling him a thing?
For context, on the boards, we like to order in like fun novelty dice every now and again. Yeah. And we got in these dice shaped like bullets.
As soon as you mentioned a cowboy thing, I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, I know. That's why I saw it before. I was like, and we were talking about it before. I was like, no, I got to keep that for the broadcast.
So you heard it here first, guys. If you guys want bullet dice, come to the boards.
But if you take away one thing from this entire cast, we've got dice.
Yeah, come down and buy our dice. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much,
Connor. Cheers, Connor. Really appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, everyone.